The first thing I notice as you get ready here is that you need a little bit more secondary spine tilt at address. Your spine's a little too vertical. You got a great counter swivel, but because you don't have the spine tilt at address, it keeps your sternum too far forward in the golf swing. You have a spine line axis of symmetry, and by keeping your spine vertical at address, it's actually, and adding the counter swivel, it's turning it into more of a sternum line axis of symmetry. So once again, as you get ready here, look at your setup. Let's bump the hips forward a little bit more to get that secondary tilt in play. Put you in position where you can have a good counter swivel action, but you can also get your sternum more inside your right foot and have good spine line axis of symmetry at the top of the backswing. The next thing I noticed, because of the fact that you don't get your sternum deep enough, what happens is your shoulders actually come to a stop before your arms get to the top of the backswing, and that actually throws your swing a little bit out of sequence as well. From this angle, Chad, I like the setup, posture, the waggle looks great, good side on, elbow to the side. As you start your backswing, we have a good deep turn of the right hip. The arms, hands, and body look like they're moving together. Once again, we're going to see the chest stops turning before the arms get to the top. That's mainly because you've got the sternum line axis of symmetry going on. One other thing, I'd like to see that right arm fold a little bit more so that the club would actually set a little bit more on plane in the golf swing as well. As far as coming down is concerned, the main thing we're noticing again is your right hip's coming off the wall. So once you get to the top of the backswing, you got that right hip in a nice deep position. And once you get that right glute pinned on the wall, and if you get that glute pinned on the wall, you're going to find out your hip's going to turn and your rear end's going to clear back on the wall, creating room for your arms, hands, and club to slot down in front of you. That's going to allow you to feel like you're getting your hands much more closer to your body instead of them going out and around a little bit more. Hello, Chad. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your victory last week. What we want to do today is recap some of the concepts that we talked about this last week that helped you feel like it contributed to your victory. We're going to notice that a couple of things are going on in your golf swing. First of all, you've been making a real good counter swivel action, and that's something that we want because you play best with that counter swivel type technique. That's helping you maintain your front anchor balance. What was happening, though, in the weeks prior to this last week is that as you got set up, instead of setting up and having enough bump of the hips forward to get your lower body into that front anchor alignment, you were actually more leaning into the front anchor alignment. So you were getting your upper body more to the left. Remember, if you're going to be a counter swivel golfer, we need to feel like the sternum stays in position, you bump the hips forward. From here, you can make a counter swivel action, and you can still feel like your sternum is rotating to the right. It's really important for you to get your sternum to rotate to the right. You want to feel like at the top of the backswing, even though your hips are counter swiveling, you want to feel like your sternum is inside your right foot. And the reason for that is that your upper body axis of symmetry is what I call that spine line axis of symmetry. What that means is that your upper body is rotating around your spine. So as your hips counter swivel, your upper body is rotating around the spine. Okay? Now, that may look like your head's moving to the right, moving off the ball, and your upper body's moving to the right. But the reality is what's happening is the top of the spine is staying in the same spot. So your spine is actually, your spine line staying in the same position, and everything else is rotating around to the right. That does not mean you're moving off the ball, nor does it mean that you're swaying. As a matter of fact, if you make a good counter swivel action, and you just rotate around the spine, you're going to find that your hips are staying front anchor, and you're also going to feel like your upper body's rotated behind the ball. You've known in the past that when your upper body is too far forward coming down, it cramps you up and you don't have any room for you to make that proper extension down, out, and through the ball. And so you end up getting either blocks if you hold on, or you go ahead and throw it with your hands and you flip it. So once again, we want to make sure that you're using that counter swivel action, but we also want to make sure that you're using that spine line axis of symmetry. You did a good job this week. You put your stick on the ground, and when you got set up, you could notice whether your hips were rotating to the front side of the stick and whether your sternum was rotating to the back side of the stick. So if you just go ahead and get set up again, make sure I create that counter swivel action, and then I go to the top, and I can see that my sternum is more inside my foot or between the stick and my foot. So one of the drills that you can do that really helps this is to go back and use your preset hip drill. So you go ahead and get set up. When you step in, You're stepping in left foot first. That looks great. That's a good front anchor step and approach. Once you get set up, go ahead and bump your hips forward. Now you can see my hip is ahead of that line. I feel like my right hip joint is right over the line, so the rest of my hips are in front of the line. From here, I'm going to go ahead and preset my hips. You can just see I preset my hips with the counter swivel action. Now as I go to the top, I want to make sure my sternum stays to the right side of the stick. So now you've got your backswing established with everything proper. You have a good front anchor balance, you've got a counter swivel technique, but you've also used the spine line axis of symmetry to coil your shoulders up to the top of the backswing. Let's do that one more time. Let's get set up. Bump the hips forward, preset with the counter swivel, turn to the top, and check to make sure your sternum is inside your right foot. If you do that properly, then you're going to know that you've loaded the top of the backswing really well. Okay, the next thing that we notice is what happens when we're coming down. During the downswing, you often have a tendency, once you go up to the top, even if you do the counter swivel and you load it properly, you have a tendency coming down for your hips to go ahead and come off the line, or off what I call the wall. Remember, this is the wall back here. So what I want you to get the feel of is once you've got your bump, you've got your preset with your hips, you go to the top, I want you to feel like you're keeping that right glute stuck to the wall, on the wall. So if you keep that glute on the wall as you start down, that creates all this room for your arms to come down in front of you. If your hips come off the wall, you're going to see your arms are going to want to go out, and you're either going to get the flip again to block, can't even shank it if you do that. So again, we get set up, bump, preset, turn to the top. Now from here, feel like your arms have all this room to come down as you're keeping that right glute glued onto the wall. Now get your hands down more in front of you. Like we say, you're trying to protect your junk here. Your hands coming in front of your zipper. And then that's going to allow you to post and release as you go through the wall. Okay? And you're going to find your line of flight is going to be a lot better, just like it was this week. So what I want you to do is make sure that you've got a few things in order every week. If you got your stick on the ground, you always want to make sure when you set up, you're setting up with a little bit of rearward spine tilt. How do you do that? You bump your hips forward. That created that rearward spine tilt. From here, I'm always counter swiveling my hips so they are moving towards the front side of my stance. Then my sternum's rotating back inside the right foot. From here, you keep that right glute glued on the wall. Your arms are coming down as your hips are turning and your rear end's glued to the wall. Now you have all that room so that you can go ahead and launch with your post and your release. Remember, as your rear end's glued to the wall, you're going to feel like you're still on your feet. Your hands are coming down in front of you. Now from here, I go ahead and post and release. Rear end's glued on the wall, arms are coming down, I'm turning. Now I'm in a position I can post and release. All right, I hope this review of the techniques that you're working on helps you maintain your skills. We're going to archive it on YouTube again, so whenever you've got any questions, you can go back and watch these videos and you can check to see if you're doing these things.